It's a little bit of Wagner there. Red of the Valkyries. It is time to do a show about politics because people were like, sure, I'll watch that. Not being cast to your TV. Oh no. Anyways. So, yeah, we're going to do a show about politics because why not? Interesting stuff going on in the world, obviously. Still got the human malware problem going on. Here in Texas, it's actually been getting a little worse. My city's fine. Houston apparently is getting slammed, as is Austin. So, yeah, if you're going to go out and protest, that's fine. Just put your mask on, man. Gotta put that mask on. I know it's not 100%, but it's better than nothing, man, because the last thing you want is to be told that the ICU beds are full and you're getting worse. So yeah, go out and protest all you like, guys. Just be safe. Be nice to each other. Lots of interesting stuff. I actually just came upon a story here that I'm going to share with you guys. It's a little interesting. Something that people have kind of been talking about for a few years now, at least in the gaming industry, is there has been a slight bit of racism in Magic the Gathering. Not exactly what you would think, but certain cards. Certain cards in Magic the Gathering are deemed racist, and now they are being flat out banned because of the images that they invoke. And we're going to share some of those cards with you here today. So, if you are easily offended, that's too bad, because we're going to show them. So yeah, let's just get right down to it. This is a thread that was posted over on Twitter from somebody named Merfolk Magic. And we'll kind of go over it. We'll read through it a bit. And obviously we'll get y'all's opinions on some of the cards that are being listed here. Some of them are very obviously have racial undertones. Others are not so much. But let's get to it. So, here we go again. Merfolk Magic. Yes, Magic the Gathering. Yes, really. Educational rundown of the long overdue depictions of racism in Magic bannings with references. Here's the first one. Invoke Prejudice. It says here, this card is the most egregious of everything banned today for being blatantly racist. See artist details and 1488 reference below. This is Invoke Prejudice. And, yeah, this is, I mean, you could just tell, again, it's got those very, strong undertones of racism. We kind of know what those guys in those hooded hats are supposed to be, or at least that's what a lot of people may believe it's what they are. It doesn't even really matter in a lot of cases what the cards do, I guess. Maybe it does. Let's read this. Enchantment. If opponent casts a summon spell that does not match the color of one of the creatures under your control, that spell is countered unless the caster pays an additional X, where X is the casting cost of the summoned spell. Yeah. I actually don't ever remember seeing this card before. It's a common. But yeah, for obvious reasons, this has been banned because obviously the imagery is a little out there. I can't say I blame them. Let's see. They say that there's more information here down below. Excuse the ads. The public card ID for Invoke Prejudice was 1488, a code phrase. So let's see here. Referencing the 14 words slogan, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. The second is 88, which stands for this person right here. You can clearly see that. H being the eighth letter of the alphabet and so forth. Okay, so that's interesting. Continuing here. With this banning, the card ID has been changed. Good. The artist of this card has allegedly been closely associated with certain groups. You can read that there. Wizards of the Coast has not worked with this artist since 1997. So, wow. It's more than just the art, apparently, according to this information. And again, Merfolk Magic, this is the person who we're kind of getting this from. There may be some replies here in the thread, so keep that in mind as we go through these. Let's move on to the next card here. Cleanse from 1994, with the obvious reference being for certain types of cleansing. Cleanse is a card that was printed after the already pseudo-identical card Wrath of God, specifically omitting out everything but black. This itself is not racist, but combined with certain other things, apparently. Yeah, this is what kind of makes it all black creatures in play are destroyed. Cleanse. Yeah, that's a little rough. Again, if you're not familiar with Magic the Gathering, this may be a little weird for you. You may not fully understand what all this means. In Magic the Gathering, again, just to kind of go over things, there are white cards, black cards, blue cards, red cards, and green cards. And white cards tend to be kind of like the superhero typey kind of people, and the black cards tend to be the evil ones. But yeah, when you mix Cleanse with this text, all black creatures in play are destroyed. That's that's pretty bad. So again, and look at that, it's from the same set too. Wow. Let's see what else they have to say about it here. The flavor text referencing the elimination of each foul beast. This card has more than enough innuendo for those with limited imaginations to make the racial connection. The intention is the issue here. This card could have been called literally anything else and be fine. That's actually very true. Because this in and of itself, within the game context, it's fine. But yeah, you could have taken that out and called it something like, I don't know, elimination. I don't know. But yeah, this is kind of, puts things together there for you. Excuse me. Going forward, Stone Throwing Devils from 1993. STD, that's a... yeah, makes religious references to annual Islamic Hajj pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. During this ritual, Muslims throw pebbles at three pillars, otherwise known as Jamarat. I'm not familiar with that at all, but we'll kind of keep going ahead here. Stone Throwing Devils. Summon Devil's First Strike. Sometimes those with most sin cast the first stones. Each Jamarat represents a temptation from the devil. Throwing stones rejects those temptations, and each crush or rejection brings the person closer to God. Note that the Jamarat symbolizes the devils, the stone throwers are people. Gotcha. Okay. The card in its artwork reverses these references and depicts Muslims themselves as the stone-throwing devils. Ooh, okay. On top of the ledge looking at the Jamarat. Yeah. Again, the intention here was anti-Islamic. The depiction of devils has been prevalent throughout Magic. That it has. That is kind of interesting. I don't know about that one. This was in... Okay, I see what it's doing here now. You all may not even realize this, but that little symbol means Arabian Nights, which is the set that this particular card is from. If I'm not mistaken, that is Arabian Nights. And Arabian Nights, obviously, it is a very particular type of set. And so the history behind that set is well known. So yeah, when you mix the fact that it's in Arabian Nights with this, then yeah, I can kind of see that, I could see how people would make a connection. All right, that makes a bit more sense. Let's see. Praedysh Gypsies. The Romani are widely known in English by the exonym gypsies, which is considered by some Roma people to be pejorative due to its connotations of illegality and irregularity. Yeah, I've heard stuff like this about people who are referred to as gypsies. How they're always kind of... they travel around from place to place. A lot of them, apparently, according to legend, are thieves and they steal and that sort of thing. So I can kind of see how this isn't quite what you want to put out there. Praedysh Gypsies, summon, let me see, target creature gets -2, -0 until end of turn. Okay, so that makes perfect sense. because again, gypsies, like I said, are known for stealing. At least that's the history. And there you go. They're stealing somebody's attack power, which is weird. It's an out there connection. I see what you're saying. You're probably talking about the throne stone devils, stone throwing devils. There we go. But again, because it's in Arabian Nights, I think that's probably why people make the connection. This one, it's kind of weird though, because I remember when I was a child, somebody that I was close to would always say things like, "You better be good, or the gypsies are going to come get you." And that's kind of how I came to know it. And then as I got older, I realized what this kind of meant. So yeah, that's a little harsh. Can see why they're kind of doing it with that card. They just want to get rid of that. The Council of Europe consider that gypsy or equivalent terms, as well as administrative terms such as gens du voyage, referring in fact to an ethnic group but not acknowledging ethnic identification, are not in line with European recommendations. In North America, the word gypsy is most commonly used as a reference to Romani ethnicity, though lifestyle and fashion are at times also referenced by using this word. I did not previously know this, but have educated myself on the topic and will refrain from using the word. That's kind of what it means. I don't know. Do you all think that this is akin to a racial slur? I don't know. I'll be honest. I've never met anybody personally of Romani ethnicity, so I sincerely don't know. Yeah, I guess it could be. I mean, there is something I want to say about it, but I know it's going to sound really strange. But I'll just leave that alone. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Oh yeah, here it is again. Jihad, 1994. And again, before we move on, again, this is from Arabian Nights. Same symbol. It's from the Arabian Nights set. Jihad is a controversial topic even among Muslims. The word jihad appears frequently in the Quran with and without military connotations, often in the idiomatic expression striving in the path of God. So this in and of itself, you can kind of see why this is a little... Because I think back in the 90s when this was originally done, it wasn't really known very much to the Western world what jihad really was. I think only after the early 2000s, when all that stuff started going on, that's when people became more and more familiar with certain religions in the Middle East. And now people always kind of, anytime they hear the word jihad, they immediately think, at least here in the United States, they think, oh, evil, terrorists, that sort of thing. And so at the time, it may not necessarily have been such a bad thing because, again, within the context of Arabian Nights and within the game, the card itself didn't really have any sort of negative connotation attached to it. At least that's how I feel about it. But again, 27 years later, things have changed. You own a few of the jihad cards. Yeah, you can still find them. They're all over TCG Player. The connection is super choppy for you. It is choppy. I don't know what you mean by choppy, but okay. But let's go ahead and read this. Enchantment. Choose a color. As long as opponent has cards of this color in play, all white creatures gain +1/+2. Jihad must be discarded immediately if at any time opponent has no cards of this color in play. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, let's see what they have to say about it. Islamic jurists and other ulema of the classical era understood the obligation of jihad predominantly in a military sense. They developed an elaborate set of rules pertaining to jihad, including prohibitions or harming those who are not engaged in combat. In the modern era, the notion of jihad has lost its jurisprudential relevance and instead given rise to an ideological and political discourse. That is true. It's exactly what I said just a minute ago. While modernist Islamic scholars have emphasized defensive and non-military aspects of jihad, some Islamists have advanced aggressive interpretations that go beyond the classical theory. With that said, the religious connotations of the card was not the reason it was banned. Okay. The set name also includes Army of Allah, a card that would fit an identical narrative which was not banned. And this is the one that they're referring to, Army of Allah. And again, Arabian, I mean, you can obviously see the theme here with Arabian Nights. It's going to have a lot of stuff like this. The reason behind this banning is the white creature clause. The effect of both this card and the next would be interpreted as supremacy over every other color. So yeah, I guess when you put those together, that's reaching a little. But again, I think you have to really kind of keep in mind that a lot of people that would get upset over stuff like this, I think, are in the minority. But we've come to a time where you want to try your best not to piss off anyone. Because I mean, the way it is with Twitter and Facebook, it's everybody has a voice. So you know how it is in some cases where you'll see a news story where where someone will say, the so and so company has angered people for having such and such thing. And then when you go and you read into the details, then you realize that it's like, oh wait, they only pissed off 2 people. So yeah, it's that's the kind of world we live in. When you see a headline like that, where it says, and I'm just kind of making this up, Magic the Gathering, angers players by having a card named Jihad, something like that. But then when you go and you read into it, it's only like 2 or 3 players that are upset about it. Everybody else is just like, eh. They don't really care. The rest of people don't care, but of course it's the 1 or 2 people that do care, and suddenly things go nuts. So yeah, interesting. Here we go. Next card, Crusade. Crusade references the medieval religious wars of Christians and Muslims between 1096 and 1271. I'm going to approve that, Rancid. There we go. Again, the religious connotations are not why the card has been banned, but rather the effect to only white creatures. I'm starting to have a problem with this. Gosh. So they're not banning it because it's called Crusade. They're banning it because it says all white creatures get +1/+1. Here's the problem with that. Or at least here would be my problem that I have with that. There are other cards for other colors, like black, green, red, however. There are other colors that have cards that are very similar to this, that do similar things, where it says like all black creatures gain flight, or all red creatures gain something. That's kind of how the game is. So yeah, this one, that's why it kind of bugs me. The word crusade, I mean, if you think about the Crusades, obviously that was a little insane. But they're saying it's not because of the religious connotations, but rather the effect to only white creatures. I'm tempted to say that's stupid. Because again, within the context of the game, this is perfectly fine. Because like I said, you can probably go and find black cards or green cards or blue cards or red cards that have very similar effects. Maybe they don't get, maybe it could be a red card, or maybe not a red card, it's not so good. A green card where, green does the same thing where they have growth. So yeah, all green creatures gain +1/+1, something like that. Is that now considered a slight against everybody else because only green creatures? It just, yeah, this one's reaching. This is really reaching. I can't agree with this one too much. I'm not crazy about this. We'll keep reading though. The effect could be interpreted as white stuff. And I'm trying to not put certain words together because YouTube doesn't like that, and they will flag me. So you'll see me dancing around some of the words here, so forgive me for that. The effect can be interpreted as stuff, and thus has been removed from the game. That's really... It says here, note, personally, as a person of color, this one was a bit of a reach. Okay, well, it looks like the person who wrote this is actually agreeing with us that this one is a reach. None of the cards banned today were relevant in any major competitive formats, as all of them weren't very good and were already hard to come across due to age. That's true. Magic the Gathering has always walked a fine line of incorporating religious and demonic elements in its cards. The game came under scrutiny in the early 1990s for its repeated use of pentagrams, which is true, and the artwork of cards, later removing them to appeal to larger audiences. Yes, again, if you are familiar with the very early Magic cards, I'm talking Alpha, Beta, Revised, Unlimited, 4th Edition, Arabian Nights, Ice Age. Yeah, some of those cards were a little out there as far as the religious undertones. In fact, I think the next card. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Unholy Strength. I remember this card. Basically, it's the same artwork. They just took out the pentagram, but it does basically the exact same thing. So yeah, they took out the pentagram. Milling. All right, today's bannings were a step in the right direction for making the game more inclusive. Large vendors like Card Kingdom have completely taken cards like Invoke Prejudice off their buy lists and in the stores. Wow, really? I hope this thread was a valuable and okay, he's just kind of saying thanks. Let's see, forgot to paste one additional card. Okay, thank you. In prison. This card depicts a person with black skin being imprisoned. As a black person, I find this image deeply disturbing, as the same card could have been expressed in many other ways. That's actually pretty true. Let's see. So in prison, pay one inch to tap action, destroy enchantment spell. Okay, that the effect doesn't really have anything to do with it. It's just the artwork. It's the artwork combined with the name. Yeah. I can see how that's bad, especially when you consider, at least here in the United States, doing stuff like this to black people when they were still slaves was actually very common. They used to put them in things like hot boxes. They'd obviously put them in chains, all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, that's a little. I can see how that would kind of push a few buttons with people. So I can get this one. Interesting. Okay. And I think that's all of it. Yep, that was the thread. So yeah, we've got Unholy Strength, in Prison, Crusade. Again, of these cards here on the list, I think Jihad, I can kind of see that a little bit. The British Gypsies, I can see that a bit. Stone Throwing Devils, it makes more sense to me now that I kind of got that explanation. And Cleanse, definitely. And oh yeah, this is the big one, obviously, Invoke Prejudice. I mean, the art speaks for itself. So, oh man, it's pretty rough, man. Like I said, I'd heard of the card before. I remember the name, but I sincerely don't remember the artwork. I don't know, maybe for some reason it just didn't leave an impression on me. But then again, I mean, I'm not black, so that could be it. I'm not white either. Yeah, that's I mean, now that the more I look at the artwork, the more it's like, okay, that's pretty scary. So, and the weird thing is, as I almost want to go out and buy these cards now. That sounds terrible. It sounds so bad. But if anything, just for the historical aspect of it, not because I think, oh, I'm gonna offend people. No, that's not it at all. But yeah, some of these they're just interesting cards. Obviously for the wrong reasons. But yeah, the first one and Cleanse, this one's bad. Yeah, this one's pretty bad. Again, within the context of the game, it makes more sense, but even then, it's still pretty bad. So yeah, that was our very strange Magic the Gathering portion of the show. Oh man, I'm trying to think now. Are there any other Magic the Gathering cards out there that, well, any game cards period, that could be looked at and thought of as racist or insensitive in some way? Um, I don't know. I guess I've never, because whenever I play a game, I don't immediately start to think, "Oh God, that's a racist symbol," that sort of thing. Um, I don't know. I guess just because like I said, I just don't look for that sort of thing whenever whenever I look at playing cards, that sort of thing. Rancid says, "I'll be honest, people can take any cards in any game out of context." That's very true. Like I said, within the context of the game, I think at least half of those cards are fine. If you take them out of context, then yeah, it's going to look bad. But then again, you could easily take out of context, things from movies, that sort of stuff, and it's going to look bad. Look at the Yu-Gi-Oh cards and the censored artwork. Well, even the censored artwork from the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I don't think they were that bad. I really don't think they were that bad. I think the biggest reason why some of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards got redone for an American audience was one, they were trying to push it towards kids, towards younger people, and so they didn't want younger people to see things like death and things that were too overly violent. Um, and also, I do know that for a while, there were some mothers that thought that Yu Gi Oh was satanic. Not kidding, they thought it was satanic. So that was weird. That's part of the reason why they stopped calling magic cards in Yu Gi Oh. They changed. That's why they changed it to spell card, because they were like, "Ooh, it's magic. It's scary. It's devil worshipping stuff." And of course, there was like that, and along with the fact that there was Magic the Gathering, they were just like, just change the name. It doesn't matter. Just change the dumb name. Comrade from Lebanon says, quote, "Y'all racist in America, admit it." Dude, it's not a secret. You laugh, but it's not a secret. There are a lot of racist people in this country. And considering who we are as a country, we are a massive mix of people from all over the globe. And it is kind of strange that there is still this much racism here. And there's a lot. There's always been, that kind of unsettling feeling, when you go out and stuff, that you may run into a racist person. It not so much down here in South Texas, thankfully. At least that's not the kind of reaction that I get. But when I was in Alabama, yeah, I got that feeling from a few people. Not so much in Louisiana. Louisiana was okay. Um, but yeah, Alabama. I admit I felt uncomfortable a few times, and that's because any of y'all that remember me when I used to use my webcam all the time on my streams, um, I'm pretty light skinned. Um, I mean, I can get a tan if I go outside, obviously. But I'm pretty darn light skinned. And even when I was in Alabama hanging out with my very white friend while we were there, there were a few people that gave me that look, like, "What are you doing here?" And yeah, it was just kind of odd. I never felt threatened while I was there, but I could definitely tell people were looking. So again, and this was in northern Alabama. I don't know if that makes a difference between southern Alabama. Um, so yeah, it's definitely kind of an odd feeling, because I guess people just look at me and they're like, okay, you don't have blonde hair, you don't have blue eyes, so what are you? Because that's how some people are. In fact, I've been asked that several times. What are you? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, what race are you? And I'm like, does it really matter? I honestly don't think it does, but apparently to some people it does. Mm. But that's people for you, man. Some people, it's like, they have to know what race you are. I, on the other hand, don't really care. I'm indifferent to it. That's probably the better thing to say. I wouldn't say I don't care, because some people take that as a slight because they're like, "Oh, you don't care." Well, no, not necessarily. What I mean is I am indifferent to it. To me, it's not a big deal, one way or the other. None of us are special. We're all just people. Get over it. Anyway, here is the big topic that I was talking about earlier in my earlier show when we were streaming Fallout. And again, this is just an opinion of mine. I kind of think that it's a little true, which is why I'm going to share it with y'all. And obviously, you can give me your feedback and tell me what you all think. You all know here in the United States, we have an election coming up in a few months. It's a big election. At this point, already Joe Biden has secured the Democratic nomination. And of course, our fearless leader, President Trump, is the Republican nomination. And based on some of the things that he's been doing in the past couple of months, or even, the past several months, basically since 2020 started, I think, and again, this is just a guess, I don't know for sure, because who really knows what the hell he's thinking. I think that he is purposely trying to torpedo his reelection. I think he is purposely trying to lose. And I will tell you why. Again, if you're not in America, you may not have been seeing this, but a lot of American politicians, both yesteryear and today, current, they've been turning on him, finally. Mitt Romney, who he has never really been friends with, but is still a staunch Republican. He has said openly, I am not voting for Donald Trump. I am voting for Joe Biden. He came right out and said it. Colin Powell, who was with the George W. Bush administration. I believe he was the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State. I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. But again, same thing. He has come out and said, I am not voting for Donald Trump. I am voting for Joe Biden. There have been a lot of people that have been saying that now. A lot of famous people. And I don't mean famous as in movie stars. I mean famous as in politics. General Mad Dog Mattis, who was in Trump's cabinet, has said already, I am not voting for him. That stunt that he pulled, what was it, about a week ago now, where he pretty much gassed a bunch of peaceful protesters so that he could walk across the street and get a photo op of him holding a Bible while standing in front of a church that severely pissed off the priests there. That really kind of sent a message to the Christian conservatives who were very much in his corner in the last election. A lot of them have come out, a lot of the religious leaders have come out and said, we're not supporting him. Not just because of what he did that day by gassing the peaceful protesters, but going to the church and using it as a prop. And also because, let's face it, he's just doing some really crazy stuff. Same thing with military. The military are turning their backs on him. And he doesn't seem to care. All these people, he's just, every day, instead of trying to actually go out and win support, he is still sticking by that old, thing that he does, where it's like, well, if you're not with me, screw you. If you're not with me, I don't care. So this is what I'm thinking. Based on all the support that he has lost just this year, and he will continue to lose support, he is probably not going to win. He will still get his base, his hardcore base, the hardcore MAGA people, the people that visit letsmaga.net and go onto the forums and post crazy things, which I hope they do. They will still vote for him. But again, they are a minority. They are not the base of Republicans. The true Republican base, I think, has finally opened their eyes and said, okay, we can't work with this guy anymore. We have to get rid of him. And the crazier stuff that he does and says, be it on Twitter or on the news or whatever, it's giving them more of a reason not to support him. And he knows that. He knows he's pissing them off too. And that's why I think he is knowingly trying to ruin his chances to be president, because he doesn't want to be president. I can tell you right now, I don't think he does. If you've seen the broadcasts or the old footage of him at the White House after he had been sworn in, his shoulders are all, sunken down. His face is all, what am I doing here? He did not want to be president even then. But his pride, which is a big thing with him, his pride would not let him quit. And so what he's going to do is he knows, okay, I'm too proud to quit. So he won't quit. But what he will do is he will do some of the most outlandish and ridiculous stuff that he has ever done in his life so that he can push as many people away as he can to ensure that he does not win. So, what he will do will be this. He will lose in November. As long as we actually all go out and vote, we do have to go out and vote. Okay? Don't think that just because I'm saying this, oh, well, we don't have to worry about voting. No, you do have to go out and vote. Please go vote. Because if we don't vote like we didn't do in 2016, then yeah, he might actually still win. But yeah, he is going to lose, and he knows he's going to lose. But so it doesn't look like he purposely lost. He, after the election is done and after, Joe Biden's been deemed the winner, he's going to come out and say, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. I want a recount. I want that. He's going to start running his mouth because he knows that his base will still support him and his base will believe it. They'll say, yeah, it must be a conspiracy. How could he possibly lose? And there's a reason he's doing that. Because if he quits, all the, I guess you could call it goodwill that he has with all the MAGA people, all the people that are hardcore for him, he'll lose all of that goodwill. Because now they're going to see him as a quitter. They're not going to see him as this maverick, as this person who was going to the White House and was supposed to change things. They're not going to see him like that anymore. The reason why he is going to try and keep those people on board and lose the election is because, like I said, he doesn't want to be president, but he still wants to be able to dig in the pockets of those people when he loses. Because, of course, what happens when you are no longer president? You go back to business as usual. And what does he do? He sells things. He sells his image. He, has all his properties. He does all that. He'll probably go about and try to do something like maybe like he was wanting to do early, back in 2016, like setting up the Trump TV network. Who knows? Maybe he might do that. And if he does that, guess who's going to watch? All the hardcore MAGA people. So if you go and you do something like that, if you set up a business or a television station or a website or whatnot, and you have a built-in, base of 20 million people who are willing to spend their money on you just for you showing up, why would you not take advantage of that? That's his MO all the way. He's all about making money. He's not about being a real leader. He's not about, leading this country at all. We can see that. So he's going to lose the election, even though he's going to torpedo himself. He's going to cry foul, knowing that he's like, thank God I lost. But at the same time, like I said, he's going to keep those MAGA people around because he wants to get more money out of them. Because all those people, all those hardcore MAGA people, you know how we know they're MAGA? Because they have hats. And who sold them the hat? Who sold them the t-shirt? It's very obvious there what's happening. And I'm sure a lot of that money went to him. That money has to go somewhere. So that's why he's going to lose. Because he doesn't want to be president, but he doesn't want to quit. Because he knows that he will lose that goodwill. And with that goodwill gone, he has no way of getting more money out of those people. And unfortunately, those people don't see that. They may not want to see that. But yeah, that's why he will lose. Because he is going to purposely screw up as much as he possibly can. And it won't be hard for him either. It will not be hard for him. Because, when you're a moron, you can just kind of be yourself and and screw things up. So yeah, I sincerely don't think he's going to win again. I don't know if it'll be a landslide victory for Joe Biden, but I just don't see Trump winning again. I think, like I said earlier, I think most regular Republicans, the middle of the road Republicans, they realize what's happening and they realize that he's not good for the country. You can't have somebody like that in there. You just can't, because look at where we are now. To be fair, with any president in there, this could have and probably would have still happened as far as, racial injustice and protests in the streets and that sort of thing. It probably would have still happened because it was just kind of one of those ticking time bombs that was just waiting to go off. But if we had a more competent president, I think that things would have been handled much better. You would have had a president that was able to go out there and say, okay, we need to cut this BS out. You know, if you can't handle being a police officer, if you can't handle, people getting in your face every now and then, if you just can't, fight that itchy trigger finger to shoot people with with pepper balls and pepper spray and rubber bullets, if you can't help that, then you should not be a cop. And he never said that. And he won't. It's terrible, man. It's absolutely terrible. But hey, as much as we thought that it was going to be funny, I guess it was for a little bit. Dre Dallas from Detroit says, I think Trump's going to win. Again, my people not going to vote because it's not Obama. Well, I mean, if you're saying that they're not going to vote simply because it's not another black guy, that's unfortunate. I mean, there isn't a Hispanic guy running for president, but I'm still not going to vote for Trump. I'm actively voting against him. So I sincerely hope they don't feel that way. It'd be awesome if we had a candidate that had the same leadership qualities as Obama running. Unfortunately, we ended up with an old 77-year-old white dude. So we just, you have to look at it from this. You have to look at it from this angle. It's like, okay, do we want Trump, who is obviously not going to do anything, right? Or do you want Joe Biden, who is at least not Trump? So you have to figure, what's it going to be, man? Because obviously, like I said, Trump is not going to do anything for the black people. He's just not. He's not going to do anything for black people. The same way he's not going to do anything for Hispanic people. I know it really shouldn't come down to racial lines with leadership, with who we choose for leadership. But in this case, it's a matter of he is purposely not going to do anything for black people because the black people he thinks cannot do anything for him. So that's why we have to get him out of office. It's just, it's not worth the trouble anymore. It's really not. We've burned so many bridges with him being in office that if he stays in office 4 more years, we may not have a country. And I know that sounds extreme, but, all good things must come to an end. And, I'm not saying that this is the end, but maybe we're getting a preview. As far as my view on Biden, he was not my first choice. Not even close. Not at all. Bernie Sanders was not my first choice either. Out of the entire field, if we go back a year and think of all the people that we had to choose from, we had a few decent candidates that I thought could have done something. I liked Kamala Harris for a while. But what soured me on her a little was I found out, just as everybody else did, some of the stuff that she did when she was the district attorney. There were allegations of her hiding evidence and withholding evidence from defendants and giving it to them like literally the night before. Because if you're not familiar with how the justice system works, if you're a defendant, like if you get arrested for, car theft, and the DA is going to charge you with a crime, they have something called disclosure, where they have to disclose every piece of information that they have on the crime, and they have to give that to you and your defense attorney so that you can prepare a proper defense. And they generally have to give that to you within a decent amount of time, because if they give it to you like the night before the trial starts, well, you're not going to have time to build a defense in 12 hours. You want to give your defense attorney as much time as possible so that they can develop the proper defense. They can go in there and defend you the best that they can. So everything is fair. But there was some sort of issue where allegedly, I have to say allegedly, that allegedly she had something to do, or somebody on her staff had something to do with them purposely withholding that disclosure information until the very last second in some cases, therefore not allowing the defendants and their attorneys to prepare a defense, therefore making the trial unfair. That to me is pretty scandalous, because I don't care who it is. It could be a murderer, it could be a rapist, it could be somebody that robbed a bank, it could be anybody. The justice system is there to work in a very specific way. And every single person, regardless of who it is or what they allegedly did, they need to be able to come up with some sort of way to defend themselves if they decide to go to trial. You need to give the lawyer the opportunity to try to work something like that up. And when you take that away from somebody, that is one of the most un-American things I can ever think of. So that's when Kamala started to sour on me. What was his name? I apologize. I can't remember his full name. Yang. I can't remember his first name. Only reason I remember Yang is because he had the Yang Gang. He had some interesting ideas, but I don't think that that he had the political know-how to really maneuver in Washington. He is a very smart man, though. I will give him that. He's a very, very smart man. He's the same guy that said that he wanted to give each American, I think it was like $1,000 a month, something like that. He just wanted to give Americans $1,000 a month. And he actually explained one time how it was going to work. And people were just like, how is that possible? How could you possibly just give $1,000 away to every American? And, and he had a plan to try and do it. And he hung around for a while. But obviously he just couldn't get the support. Benia says Sanders will not beat Trump and Biden is just an easy target for Trump to beat up. Here's the thing. Speaking of Trump and Biden, the one thing that Joe Biden needs to do right now is nothing. I sincerely mean that. He needs to do nothing. If Trump comes out and starts attacking him and saying all these terrible, mean things about him, the best thing Biden can do is say nothing. If Republican news outlets start accusing Biden of this or that and saying all these terrible things about him, the best thing he can do is nothing. Because at this point, it is his election, it is Biden's election to lose. Meaning that as long as he doesn't do anything incredibly stupid, he should win. So Trump can talk and beat up on Joe Biden all he wants. It's not going to change the minds of people who have already made their decision to vote for Biden. Because even at this point, I think most people, even people who voted for Trump in the last election, have already made their decision that they're not going to vote for him again. I think the party lines have already been drawn as far as who's voting for who. So, like I said, Joe Biden just needs to shut up and just let it happen. And he'll be fine. Just stay on course, stay on message, and you're fine. Don't go and try to attack Trump. Just don't do it. Just leave it alone. Let him talk his mouth off all he wants. And just do that. And that's all you have to do. And Biden wins. Again, probably not in a landslide, but it will be a firm victory. Benia also mentions Obamagate. That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. It is. Obamagate was something that Trump made up. He basically said that he just kind of made it up one day. He was doing one of his press conferences and he said Obamagate. And when he was actually asked what Obamagate was, initially he said, yeah, the Obama administration committed all these crimes. And so again, the reporters that were there asked him, what specific crime are you accusing Barack Obama of committing? And Trump was like, you know what crime it is. You know what it is. I don't have to say it. And that was it. He never answered the question. He never, until this point, I've not heard of anybody saying exactly what they thought Obama did. Some people have come out and said that it may have something to do with some of the court systems that they were using as far as how to get FISA warrants, that sort of thing. But beyond that, I can't think of really anything else that he can really attack Obama with. But even then, it doesn't really matter at this point because he's not running against Obama. He's running against Biden. And that's, again, another reason for Biden to just keep his mouth shut. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything and you win. Oh, man. I'm trying to get through your messages, guys. Socialism, Sandwich remote. Nothing is not a good answer for corruption accusation. Well, see, the thing is, there are some people out there that if you accuse somebody that you don't like of a crime, whether they do or do not say something is not going to change your mind. Because if you already don't like them and they don't say anything, the idea is, oh, well, look, he's not defending himself. He must be guilty. But if they do come out and defend themselves, then you just flip it on the other side. You just basically say, oh, well, they're lying now. They're lying. We know they did this thing. You can't win either way. Yeah, it's, like being between a rock and a hard place. It's just, you can't win. With some people, you sincerely can't. Like that whole thing where that woman was accusing Joe Biden of sexual harassment and propositioning her. That was a big deal. That was a huge thing. And Joe Biden flat out denied it. But that woman, again, she kept pushing it and saying, yeah, he said these things and he did these things and he made me feel very uncomfortable. And I admit, even for a while, I wouldn't say I believed her, but I was willing to listen to her. And based on the information that continued to come out after all that, her story started to fall apart. And when it started to fall apart, at that point is when I started to question, okay, why would she do this? Why now? And apparently there was a situation, or there was something that had happened like 10 years ago where she had come out and said something even then. I think it was back in like 2008 when he was going to be vice president. She had come out then, but nobody really looked into the story at that point. I think it was 2007, 2008, something like that. But nobody really looked into the story because he was only going to be vice president. He wasn't going to be the president. And so that's why she's bringing it up again now, because he is looking to be president. But the more I looked at that story, the more it didn't make any sense to me. And again, like I said, if you answer or if you don't answer, people who have already made up their mind that they don't like you, they're going to find a way to make it look bad on you. So, yeah. Dre says, Slim, you did jury duty before. I just threw my paper away. You better go get that paper, Dre. Go fish that thing out of the garbage, because if you get a summons, you need to reply to it. Because if you don't, that is breaking the law, and they can actually come and get you for that. If you do get a summons, just respond to it, man. Just respond to it. If for some reason you can't get down there, that can actually be a reason for you to try to drop out of jury duty. But you generally, whenever you get a summons, like I know the times that I've gotten summons, I just tell them that I don't have a vehicle. I don't have a reliable way of getting there. And they're like, okay. And they just drop me out, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Because I think there's usually a number that you can call, or there's a website that you can visit. I know we have a website here in Texas. That's how I was able to get out of jury duty, is I responded. In fact, the same day that I got my summons, I responded, and I gave them the reason, and like an hour later, I got an email saying, okay, you're excused. And I've actually not gotten a summons since then. So, yeah. Comrade says, Biden will blow everything up and lose. We hope not. Short of him going out and stripping down bare butt naked and mooning everybody by spreading his butt cheeks open on national television, I don't think there's a way he loses. I really don't. No, Benia, I'm not going to do that. In fact, specifically because you said that, Benia, now I'm really not going to do that. Yeah, because this is not supposed to be like a regular show. This is supposed to be more like a podcast. So deal with it. Is Clinton going to declare in Senate? You mean Hillary Clinton or which Clinton? There's a lot of Clintons. There's Hillary Clinton, there's Bill Clinton, there's Chelsea Clinton. If Obama demolish Obama, it will cost Biden some votes because Obama is a person that will bring a lot of votes. It can. He can bring a lot of votes, but again, the same thing that, Obama just has to not do anything stupid and he won't cost Biden any votes. It's just how it is. And I think they both understand that now. I hope they both understand. I know Barack Obama does. As far as Joe Biden, I hope people are telling him, just shut up. If Trump wins against the whole U.S. away. No. Getting to the police riots, and I say police riots, I don't say police protests, because the people who are doing protests are just protesting. They're fine. The police, on the other hand, are rioting. There was a man out of New York who is the head of the, I believe it's the New York Police Department Union. He's the president. And he got extraordinarily angry. In fact, let me see if I can find a video, and I will share it with you guys. The New York Police Union reps hold press conference. Okay. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, here we go. But yeah, this is one of the most interesting things that I've found. In fact, let's listen to it here, and let me go ahead and share this. Let me put it up on my browser. Okay, this is not at all what I put in here, but there we go. And bring that over. And let us play it.
Job to read it and know what it says. So the reason I say that is why aren't you speaking to all the stakeholders? That's their word. The stakeholders. The stakeholders. Our families, the community, the stakeholders. Why aren't you asking the question of professional law enforcement? Why aren't you seeking our advice? Is it that maybe we'd be reasonable? Maybe we can see where the problems would be? Maybe because we're standing on that street corner with our fellow citizens, we know that they don't want this violence visiting their corners, but we've seen it. Didn't we just visit this problem with our legislature recently? Didn't they rush through bail reform? Didn't they have to admit they made a mistake? Why did it happen? It happened because they rushed it in the dark of night without speaking to, the stakeholders.
He's full of shit. And I'll tell you why. Remember, this is about police brutality. That is what this is about. Okay? That is why people are protesting. And the reason he's full of it is because he is not, within that first minute of this video, he has not even touched on what is happening here. Again, this is about police brutality. Just because you disagree with what the city did with any money that was supposed to be allotted for your department does not give your police officers permission to go out and beat the living crap out of people. Just because they feel like it. You're not allowed to do that. I don't care how much money they cut from your budget. You are not allowed to do that. It is the dumbest thing. Man, that's terrible. There's another video that I really want y'all to check out. Let me mute it here a bit. Let me go and see if I can find the spot that I wanted to show you guys. Because there's another guy who, at this same press conference, tried to make some points about how he and his department feel threatened. and that they don't like being treated like criminals, and that they feel that it is completely unfair. And this is probably one of the most insane things I have ever heard. So I'm going to let you hear it.
Take a look.
I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. Stop treating us like animals and thugs, and start treating us with some respect. We've been vilified. It's disgusting.
That is a member of the New York City Police Department union. And he is getting angry because they are being lumped together with other police departments around the nation. And I have to say that the irony in those comments is so thick, you could cut it into slices and serve it like cake. Now, Bonilla says the man has a point, and to a certain extent, he does. However, New York Police Department, their hands are not clean of this at all. They themselves have been responsible for the deaths of black people at the hands of their officers. Same thing. Yes, they may not have been directly responsible for what happened in Minneapolis to George Floyd. However, they themselves have officers that should not be cops. They have been brutal. They have been horrible to the black community. And the irony there is that he's saying, don't lump us in with those other people. Yet that's exactly what they do with black people. That's what they do. The reason why I say that is in New York City, there was a policy. It's no longer in place, but there was a policy called stop and frisk. Stop and frisk basically allowed police officers to stop anybody on the street, regardless on if they thought they committed a crime or not, and to question them, ask them for ID, and to search them. That was completely legal for a while. And who do you think they were stopping and frisking most of the time? Yeah, I don't even have to say it. You already know. So, black people for a long time in New York City felt that they were being lumped in with criminals and people that should not be part of our society. For decades, they have felt that way in New York. And they have made it very clear, the black people, that is, the black community, have made it very clear that they are sick of being lumped in with criminals, drug dealers, and all these other people that they don't want to be a part of, because most of them just go about their business, they go to work, they do their job, and they go home. They're not criminals. They're just people, just like you and me. But the irony comes into play here when this guy, who is with the NYPD union, is now getting angry because apparently the same thing is now happening to him. The same thing that his department has been doing to the black community for decades, singling them out, taking advantage of those laws, stopping and frisking them even though they knew that those black people did not commit any crimes. He is now getting mad because the same thing is happening to him. He is now being lumped in with all the other police. And that sucks, doesn't it? Because you shouldn't be lumped in with other people like that. Just because one white person or one black person does a horrible thing doesn't mean that they're all that way. We know that. Any reasonable person will tell you that. But unfortunately, black people in New York didn't have that choice. They were lumped in and they were treated like criminals. They weren't even doing anything. They were just walking down the street. And suddenly you've got a cop in your face asking you for your ID and telling you he's going to search you, and there's nothing you can do to stop him. They can even cuff you, put you in the car. You know? and it was perfectly legal. You could ruin somebody's day like that. You could even just make something up, to take them to jail, just to screw with their life. And I'm pretty sure they did that a lot. There was a high school boy in New York who was accused of stealing a backpack. And he was arrested. He was not allowed out on bail. We don't know why. Again, he was accused of stealing a backpack. He was arrested. He was sent to Rikers Island, one of the roughest prisons in America. And he was in there for 3 years. 3 years. He sat there and he waited. His trial never came. He just sat there for 3 years. Nobody ever told him what was going on. Nobody told him when he would be released. Nothing. When he finally did get released, after 3 years, he was such a broken young man that he took his own life. That's how much prison broke him. I know that in and of itself is not necessarily a police action. However, it feeds into what we have known to be a problem for years, decades, centuries at this point, really, here in the United States, is that the system itself, in a lot of aspects, is set up to make black people fail. I cannot think of any time in our history where a white person was arrested for something as simple as stealing a backpack, and they were made to stay in jail for 3 years. Because it's never happened. It's never happened to a white person. It's happened to black people. It's happened to a lot of black people. Why? Anybody remember Eric Garner? He was accused of selling loosies on the street. And if you don't know what a loosie is a loose cigarette. Because generally you just buy cigarettes in your pack. But a loosie is somebody has the pack open and they just sell you one cigarette for $1. That's a loosie. Police approached him because they thought he was selling loosies. When they were trying to apprehend him, they choked him to death. Why? That wasn't that long ago. Yet he dies in police custody. And again, in these comments, they fail to even mention his name. That happened in New York. But do you think they're going to bring it up at their press conference? Of course not. Because it makes them look bad. Eric Garner's family's still waiting for justice. What about Breonna Taylor? She was shot in her bed when she was just there at home, doing absolutely nothing wrong. Police stormed in, shot her several times. I think they shot her, 5 times? And the kicker on that one is that the police, they say they were serving a no-knock warrant, which basically means they can storm your house. They don't even have to knock or announce who they are. They can just storm into your house. So they did. They stormed into her house, shot her 5 times, killed her. Her boyfriend, who was there with her, didn't know what was happening, thought that they were, dealing with a home invasion. So he grabs his gun and he shoots back. But of course it was the police. But they didn't announce though they were the police, so he had no idea. So he shoots at them, thinking that they were just bad guys trying to do something terrible to them. Well, in a way they were. They arrest him for attempted murder on a police officer, even though he had no idea who they were until after the fact. Those charges have been dropped, thankfully. Nobody has been charged in the murder of Breonna Taylor. It's been months, and nobody's been charged. And again, the kicker in all that is that the no-knock warrant was served at the wrong house. the house they were looking for wasn't the same as where Breonna Taylor was. So they just stormed into a house. Well, wrong one. Killed a woman who had nothing to do with what they were investigating. And she's dead. And again, nobody's been arrested. Nobody's been fired as far as I know. Why? I mean, how do you just let something like that go? That's our show for the day. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I appreciate it. If y'all like this, hit like. If you'd like it, subscribe. This is just a first show. We may do more. And I will do more work as far as getting more information about various stories, more graphics, that kind of thing. I just wanted to try it out, see how people liked it. Until next time, guys, be safe. If you protest, wear a mask. And if you're white, you're fine.